What's up, guys? Welcome back to Feast or Famine with the Youngs.
We're the Youngs, and I'm wearing headphones again.
Yep, so we have a virtual guest today.
Coming to us straight from the MacBook Pro in front of me.
Colorado, right?
That is Colorado. Yeah, this is Calen from White and Revery. So we're out in Denver, Colorado. So we've been here about 7 years now. We originally came from Orlando, Florida, where we originally started our company. So we've been in the industry filming weddings for over 12 years now. And both my wife and I, Christine, and we have a 7-year-old daughter at the time right now. So we're planning her birthday, which is this weekend.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
We're in the middle of that right now.
That's exciting.
Do you guys have a theme?
We do have a theme. Let me try to think of what it was. It is Lisa Frank jungle theme.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be...
We're going to have some
Tarzan?
really fun, loud outfits for sure.
You guys always, I mean, if we know anything about you guys always come with the best outfits.
For anybody watching that by happenstance doesn't know who White and Revery is, they are multiple times listed as the best wedding videographers in the world.
Yes.
On that list, right? Have
Harper's
you been on that
Bazaar?
list?
I mean, yes, I appreciate that. I would say some people have mentioned that. It all depends on who's saying
it's been mentioned.
Best, you know what I
It's
mean?
been mentioned.
Like I
once
have
or
a
twice.
vision of who I think's the best, and then and so it all comes down to relativity. And objectively, I would say there's a lot of amazing filmmakers out there, and
Yes.
we like to, and I think we're very thankful that we're friends with a lot of these people that we've got to.
Absolutely.
You're so humble, Calen. You
He's
guys are
humble.
literally amazing.
He's on that list. He's been on the list. They've both
Thank
on
you.
the list.
Yeah.
And I think what attracts me to what you guys have been done for, years.
Mm-hmm.
We met in, what was it? It was 2020, actually. It was right before COVID.
It was January of 2020, I think.
Yeah.
Right before COVID. But obviously I'd seen your work before that, but you guys always have a knack for kind of pushing the envelope when it comes to wedding films and kind of, I don't want to say breaking the mold, but in a sense, yes, because, if you really think about it, you watch a dozen wedding films, there is kind of like a cookie cutter element to it. Mm-hmm. But I feel like you guys specifically throw the cookie cutter out the window and make your own cookies.
I remember when Alex showed me your guys' work for the first time, when we were just getting into video, and I'm like, who the heck are these people? I'm like, this is unlike any wedding film I've ever seen before.
So I want to touch on that because I feel like a lot of people get stuck in a box when it comes to the creative industries in general, not even just weddings. How do you approach the project or the client to try to find that thing that's going to make it unique? What's your guys' process when a client comes to you and says, hey, I want you to film my wedding? How do you take it from there to that elopement you did that did the Harry Potter style thing? That was
experience. I think what's interesting, and I'm glad that you kind of mentioned that, because that's kind of how we want to approach our company, is we want to make films that are very specific for our clients, and we don't really have a template structure of this is the way we film every time, this is the way we edit every time, and we just attach it to different couples in different locations. It's more so we try to go into it and feel like, okay, what is the story that we're trying to tell? And is there a unique avenue or a unique way that we can do that still reflects the couple and it still creates a really engaging film? I think for us, it started where we were trying to figure out, okay, in what way can we be unique? And I know there's things like, okay, with the way you color grade your film can have a unique look visually. Mm-hmm. Maybe a piece of gear can do certain maneuvers that other people aren't doing. Or whenever drones weren't being used at the time and okay, now we can try using drones and get a different experience. Part of it was, how can we keep pushing the boundaries and creating something that is new and fresh? However, you also don't want to push it into a story that doesn't need to be told that way. If there's a couple that is getting married at this location and there's tons of air conditioning units on top of the building and it's surrounded by trees, drone's not really going to be the tool to tell their story there. Or if I'm trying to do these really sick gimbal maneuvers for a couple that just wants to laugh and be together and aren't trying to come across in a very cinematic, poised way, it might feel disconnected. And I think that's where you have that disconnect, is whenever you try to force something into a story that doesn't naturally need to be there. The win is whenever you can find that story and then find that element that you can place them together, and then it just matches so well. For us, we started trying to think outside the box of what can we do differently. And I think for us, it first started whenever we wanted to film an entire wedding or elopement on an iPhone. That was kind of, I think, our first time where we were like, okay, let's try something that hasn't been done before. This was with the iPhone 7 Plus. That second
I don't think I've
lens
seen
came
this.
out.
You haven't? It's one of like the OG YouTube one.
It was right when the 7 came out. They had 2 lenses. At the time, we knew that we couldn't do it on an actual wedding. It would have to be an elopement because of the type of control. They just had Filmic Pro as the app out, so you could actually kind of dial in some settings. And lock exposure and everything. But we realized, okay, what makes iPhone footage look horrible? And a lot of it's the shutter speed and everything. So trying to adapt ND filters. And at the time, there were no ND filters for iPhones. At that time, we got a prototype because we connected with Moment, and they gave us a prototype to connect their lenses to an actual iPhone 7. And so we got that, and then we rigged up. I came up with a system to create an ND filter that went over their lenses and showed them, here's my prototype of how I'm putting an ND on it so we could film. And then we had the Osmo Mobile that wasn't balanced for this extra big lens. And so we had counterbalances, all this kind of stuff. But we also wanted to tell it through our lens and through our eyes. We actually had a couple reach out earlier that year, and they told us, hey, we want to elope. We want to go to this beautiful place. We want to hit up Arches National Park, and we want to kind of tell our story and get married. They were originally going to book us, and then some things came up. They weren't able to book us, and they ended up just getting married in the summer, and they were going to try to come back a year later and do like a vow renewal with us or something. Then this idea came out over the fall for the iPhone release, and we're like, hey, this would be... if we were to do it, this couple and their story is the perfect story for it. How can we make this work? So we hit them up. We said, hey, we have this idea. Would you be willing for us to tell your story this way? And I think we pretty much did it for nothing or cost or whatever it was just to get there. We ended up bringing our daughter at the time and had a friend babysitting our daughter. We had to get like a glamping tent, and so we couldn't rent one. So we bought one on Amazon just so that it would fit the vibe. And we kind of made it into a styled shoot, but it was an authentic story. So we're able to control it, but have a lot of fun with it. And because we had some sponsorships with Moment and some other things, it allowed us to really push the boundaries and get a lot of featured. And then part of Apple's marketing team found the video and reached out to us, and they helped get it connected on brides.com, the front page, for 2 days. It was like the main post. So that was our first time trying. I mean, again, this was, what was this, 2016, 17?
Okay, that's why I missed that.
This was years ago. Yeah,
I was like just getting started with my business.
What are we on, iPhone 14 now or something?
Yeah.
I have a 12.
So yeah,
but I don't know. It's not up to date.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So about years ago. And I think once we did that, that also jump-started our education on YouTube. So we really wanted to push the boundaries for ourselves, not necessarily for our clients. So we started there, and then the next, like 2 years later, another opportunity was like, I really want to film a wedding on anamorphic lenses.
I remember that one.
And I'm like, okay, how can I do this? Well, the GH5 was one of the first cameras that came out that was, portable enough for you to actually use anamorphic glasses. And so we shot on $20,000 lenses on a little $2,000 camera and rented that out on ShareGrid from LA. And the couple that reached out to us, they're also wedding filmmakers at the time. Right. And I also I've following their work, and they really liked a lot of that anamorphic look and Super 8 footage. And so I actually pitched to them, hey, because they were open to whatever. They love us to be creative. I had this idea. I think this would work for your story because it also is something that you both appreciate and value. And so it's part of that marrying that idea of something creative, unique with the right story. And again, this doesn't happen all the time, and it's far and in between, but when it happens, it's like, this just works. And so we ended up connecting with them and filmed their whole wedding on anamorphic lenses. And it just turned out to be a really cool experience for them, but also for us to test out the waters and also teach and educate around filming on anamorphic lenses. And again, I learn by just trying things out, hands-on experience. So for me, it was also a good learning curve to understand that structure of filming with a unique aspect like anamorphic lenses.
That's awesome. You said something that I thought was really, really cool. You said you like to push the boundary for yourself, not just for your client. And I think that a lot of creatives, especially in the wedding industry, tend to fall back on what they know, especially on the day of, because of stressors and the timeline and things like that. And they're like, I just have to get the shot. Like, it just has to be done. And at this point, it doesn't matter, if it's amazing or not, it just has to be good. And sometimes I feel like it's hard to get yourself out of that mode to push your boundaries and your creative boundaries, because when you do that, and inevitably is better for your client because it's more unique or it's more of an epic shot or, whatever the case might be.
Yeah. And you attract those clients that value that, you know what I mean, too? Because there's times whenever we will, the whole debate of, well, my client won't tell the difference. So what's the difference? Who cares
exactly
if I use an ND filter? Or who cares if I do this? And it's like,
exactly.
Challenge yourself, start there. And then that quality that you put in your film will attract the proper clients. And I think that's what helped for us.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to like a couple of years ago. We had a string of weddings. It was probably our busiest fall ever. But we had a conversation like the week leading up. I'm like, I'm just not feeling inspired anymore. I'm not feeling creative. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I need to change something, but I don't know what to do. And she just was like, you know what? You're shooting the same setup with our second every single wedding. You've been doing it.
You're shooting differently today. Like, you don't have a choice.
You need to completely change it up. Throw a 50 on your C70 and don't take it off the entire day.
I'm like, I'm gonna make you extremely uncomfortable today, Alex. Are you ready?
And sometimes
it's also a risk.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes you have to force yourself to do something like that in order to make the wheels turn. Because I was shooting on a 24-70 every single wedding, or an 18-35 every single wedding all day long. So I had my second take that role, and I decided I'm just going to stick to
a prime
50
lens,
and just get creative with it. And it worked. It was really good. And I felt fulfilled after that wedding.
Yeah. Situations like that where like we have to know that we have another reliable videographer where we're like, today Alex just needs to step out of his box a little bit. So make sure that you're on your game, please.
That helps. It helps having good people around you for sure.
Yeah.
True. Exactly.
Yeah. But I love that. And are you finding like, and you've been doing this for a long time, but do you find that you get inspired pre-wedding, or does it sometimes happen on the wedding day? Or even if there's like, you're like, ugh, like this is just kind of just a general type wedding, and then you get inspired after?
They don't
like,
get general type weddings.
That's true. That's true. You don't get general type weddings.
That's true.
We definitely get a little bit of everything. And we choose what to show for the portfolios, but also to attract those certain clients. And there are times whenever you take a wedding because you got to pay the bills, and you'll still produce a great film, but it might not be your creative outlet. And that couple also might not care for that extra flair that you have to go search for and overlay properly. That extra work that you put in. Certain clients might not value that. So I save that energy, which was hard for me because I'm like, I'm putting everything into every one of my films. And I realized I'm spending so much more time on films for clients that don't value that extra work. And so for me to save myself from getting burnt out, I decided to analyze and figure out, okay, which films can I get away with giving the client 100% for them, but also saving that extra workload that we really like to do, and that flair and all that extra attention to detail for the clients that value that too. So that was kind of where we had to kind of figure out, mainly in post, how we're going to approach our films and what kind of story we want to tell with that, because it can kind of go any way we want to.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like as creatives in general, we always try to one-up ourselves every single piece of work, or in our case, wedding, but they're not all going to be the best wedding you're going to shoot and edit. And it's great that someone at your level is saying that, because I think it's a good reminder to everybody that's out there that's trying to get to that level, that you still get those at that level. You still have to assess what the couple actually wants, and if the couple is going to be happy with the work you're putting out, even if it's not the quote best thing you've ever done?
Yeah. And we'll kind of be prepping sometimes before and during the day with, okay, how do we want to approach this wedding? Most of the time, I feel like it's on the wedding day. And like I've said before, I feel like a great filmmaker is versed in the art of adapting. Whenever you walk into a scenario, you can already see what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. If there's chaos ensuing, you can find the best moments and pull them out of there. And because, when you've worked with 200 plus weddings and different environments and experiences, you kind of learn to play with those different ways. Like we've done all handheld weddings. We've done all gimbal weddings. We've done all these different scenarios. So then whenever something comes, I know, I can adapt. I can go handheld for this because it's going to work for the story, or this one's really going to need to be gimbal structured or based. Then there's few weddings where we might get an inquiry and the couple's like, okay, it's just going to be the two of us. We're all wearing black. It's going to be a little bit Harry Potter themed, and we're getting married at night. So that's going to be pre-production where we're going to already be planning, okay, what is that going to look like? I'm going to be picking very fast glass because I know I need to be able to see in low light in the scenario. I don't know how dark it's going to be for them. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use my light, but I'm going to bring it anyway. We'll bring RGB lights in case we want to play with it. And then in the moment, we're like, oh, this is great. Let's go ahead and add like an extra red light and do portraits next to the fire. You know what I mean? And that was kind of on the moment, but we had the light available, but we didn't know what we were going to do with it. So that's kind of where you're preparing for moments to take place, and then you just feel it out whenever you're in the moment and looking for things that feel organic. And then we know the couple is very open to that kind of stuff. So it was very sexy and dark and moody, which is very different than some of our other films where it might be light and airy, but we're going to lean into that because that's their story in their film. And they had lanterns that they were like leading the way as they walked down to their ceremony. It was just them two and an officiant. And so a lot of those moments we're filming completely different. I'm doing more handheld. And whenever we get to the moment, whenever there's portrait time, since there's a fire back, like we could have just naturally lit, but I think by adding that extra tone of the redness, it really brought in a little bit more of that vibe that they're looking for. And then the big part of it was the edit. When Christine was editing it, finding the right music that felt haunting, but also sexy and beautiful. Yeah. It just pulls you into the story and then all the beats you can hit. So you can film and we can film all this content, but if you don't match it with the right song or the right vibe, it can really fall flat. And I think that's where the marriage of the filming expertise and then learning how to adapt and how to tell the story in post with the proper music and learning how to work with phrasing and beats, I think it just comes together in such a beautiful way. I think that's what makes a unique wedding film.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think, like I've said this before, you give 6 different editors the same stuff, you're going to get 6 completely different films.
Yeah.
And only 1 or maybe 2 of them are probably going to hit the mark on what it should have been based on the couple, based on the environment, based on the actual story you should be telling. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important as far as you knew this couple ahead of time was going to need and want and love something like this. Mm-hmm. Because of their story. And I mean, you don't get married at night without wanting something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So on like an example, like on a wedding day where there's a lot of moving parts, maybe it's in a different country, which I know that you guys have done a lot of those before, lots of different vendors. How do you go into a wedding day where there's just so much happening and you have to coordinate with so many other vendors, but you also want to make sure that you're trying to get the most like unique and epic shots for you guys?
I mean, it really comes down to the timeline and working with vendors that respect your value and what you can bring to the table. We have a wedding coming up and we're working with a really great planner that we worked with before. And the way he approaches weddings is very collaborative with all the vendors. And part of it is, what do you want? What are you looking for? How can I help create that for you? Which is not very common for a lot of planners. It's more like, here you go, work in this timeline, also throw up a drone for me. And it's like, well, I got to tell a story. Maybe the drone's not the best idea for it, so there's just a different world. But for sure, timeline planning is big. When we get rough timelines, we'll sometimes respond back to the planner with ideas or, hey, for this timing, we really know this location. We'd really like to have some more space for this. When we're traveling internationally, it's kind of, we'll try to get day before shoots or day after shoots, or we'll just wake up and get more morning and sunrise stuff for us, or B-roll, just to kind of fill that landscape shots for the couple and the client. But it's really very collaborative for us. And that's why whenever we're picking weddings that we want to be a part of, it really comes down to a great vendor team. If we know the planner, if we know the other photographer that we've worked with, or somebody that we've wanted to work with, I think it comes together really nicely because we have that space and that freedom to, capture what we want. But there's times whenever we'll get things and it's tough because it's an amazing location, beautiful couple, and then the timeline is so stacked that you just don't have time to capture. And it's tough because you leave the wedding thinking there's so much more I didn't get. But then if you look at the footage from someone else's perspective, they're like, oh my gosh, you got all these beautiful shots. Only you know what you didn't get.
That's so true. We've done that.
So I think that's one of those stories where that happens to me a lot of the time. I'm feeling not confident in my filming, or there's things that I'm just missing it because I'm like, I could have got that shot. I know I can get that shot, but timeline didn't allow it. And I get back and I feel burned out. And whenever we look at the footage, we're like, okay, there's something here. There's still a lot of great content. Yeah. So part of that is more internal work on being able to analyze things and look at it and realize, you know what? We still got some great stuff. No one else knows what we missed, but that's just on me. And that's just the way I'm trying to approach and challenge myself, is to maximize all that. But at the end of the day, it's like we're working through a timeline and a structure. And so we're going to give it our all for what we can do. And sometimes I have to separate my mindset of what we're allowed to do versus what I'm expecting myself to do. So the way, because I approach things where it has to be perfect, or I have to give my all. And so whenever I look at a full wedding and you're looking at content and you're like, okay, here's all the things I could capture, and you probably get 60 or 70% of it. But then whenever you look at it on a timelines perspective, like, okay, I only had 30 minutes for this. Well, I did get 90% within that 30, that timeline or whatever it is. And then it feels like, okay, when you look at it from bird's eye view, I got about 90% of the stuff I wanted to get versus what I was thinking 60% from what was not showing up there. So it's kind of more of a mindset, I think, when approaching how I'm reflecting back on the content.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think when people say they missed a shot, like me specifically too, or you've had this a lot of times. I've had to kind of reel you back in too. It's funny, you can always give advice, but then when you do the same thing, you're in the same boat. But I hate the term, since listen to you say this, I hate the term, I missed the shot, I missed getting this, because it's not, you didn't really miss anything. You got everything you needed for the couple, for the planner, for the vendor team, for the day. You just missed something that was on your, I want to get this list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, you're still going to create an amazing film.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's disappointing, but internally disappointing. But at the end of the day, I mean, are our clients going to like what we did? Are they going to love the experience they had with us? Are they going to tell all their friends and family to hire us?
Yeah. So when you are thinking about weddings coming up that you kind of already know what the vibe is, you know what they're going for, where do you guys find inspo? Is it like environmental based off of where the location is, or is it maybe something about the couple themselves, or do you even look for inspiration within like actual movie films and things like that?
Literally all those. I feel like we have a wedding coming up, and part of working with the planner is, hey, here's the location. Here's what's special about it. Here's what it looks like during sunset already. So kind of getting an idea of environment expectations, what time I'm probably going to try to throw out my drone. I know the couple appreciates drone content, so that's going to be important to their story. Then also going to the couple's like Instagram and looking at how they showcase themselves, what their chemistry is already. How can we pull in some of those elements? So I'm already thinking of how I'm going to film certain things throughout the day based off of their character and personality. And then there might be movies that I've watched, or I liked the way something was filmed, or I saw a great photograph that I loved that I would love to see in more of a video version. Like, oh, I loved this pose or the way the couple's wrapped up to each other. Let's see how that would unfold in video. So a lot of the times I'll save different posing inspirations, and they're just there as just a backup, but also if the moment arises and it matches and it feels perfect, I can pull from something I've already stored in the back of my head and make it work on the spot. But I'm never going into it like, okay, here's the 4 poses I'm going to do and all that stuff. We never move into that. It's almost like we are just flowing naturally with the photographer, with the couple. If there's a time that we notice, oh, I've always wanted to do this slow motion running shot of them jumping over a log and, and kissing, and I don't think I go into it that specific, but there's always something in the back of my head that I'm pulling from somewhere else, whether it's my subconscious or not. But I think pulling from all those different areas is super important because, again, that's all part of the couple's narrative, and it allows us to have an organic story told through that lens.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really funny. You said that you pull like still photos and want to see video aspects of that. I do the exact same thing for Alex, actually.
All the time.
All the time. And I don't know why, but like for me, this is kind of off topic, but like for me, video inspires me so much more for photo. I kind of look at it the opposite way. I see video and I'm like, that I like those movements is what inspires me for photography. But sometimes I think video is just a little bit more fun. And I can just be like a little bit more creative, and there's just a creative element that I just don't get with photo. So that's why I'm like saving photos, and I'm like, but what if we have her like do this while I'm taking the photo so that she has the movement for Alex? And that's what I do.
we do like maybe 1, sometimes 2 weddings a year that it's just video or just photo. So when we, like the most recent one we did, it was just, that was just video. She gets a second shoot with me. And this one specifically, we had 3 shooters with us. But she films so much footage and I freaking love it. So I got to play,
I just see everything.
I got to play director role for the most part those days because I'm like, I know you're going to get plenty of footage for us. And I can like make sure all the logistical stuff and director type stuff is done, and then also get the shots I need too. But I love that, like, I think her being a photographer is what helps get those shots though, because she's getting to see the photos, but then she can actually see the entire thing play out that she doesn't usually get to see.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Anyway, that was like a tangent, but
train photographers as your second shooters. That's what I'm saying.
Some photographers love it whenever we kind of coach the couple through some movements, because there's some natural things that take place that the photographer now is capturing. So we do work with a lot of photographers that love the collaborative aspect of, hey, there's some, poses for the fridge that, you got to capture, but then there's also some moments in between. I know Christine is getting just exhausted from all the walking shots all the time. And she's like, it's just walking. Like, what's the point? Like, let's get deeper. And then think about this, try shooting posing without any walking shots. That's it's kind of a little difficult.
That would be hard.
It's very hard. So that really is a good strategy or a challenge. Like, okay, if you could tell a story with a couple, how would you do it differently without walking? Because I think we lean on it too much and too comfortable. That would be a great challenge. There was one that we just did where I don't think we had any poses from the whole wedding. We hardly had any portrait time with a couple. And the time that we did, it was like with their dog as well. So it wasn't just them two. And it's also kind of laughing and playing around. But the way that we're going to tell the story, it doesn't really need that portraits, which is very rare, but it happens. And so we have a story that's being told completely different than we've ever done. And we are barely pulling from any portrait, traditional portrait time, but we're telling their experience together in a different way. And so we don't have those. We've I think one walking shot. So
wow.
I want to see that. When is this coming out? Cause I have to see this.
We're editing it right now. It's also, this is another film that we've never done like this before. So the couple really loves like vlogging style. They're very candid on Instagram. They have a good following they're used to talking to the camera. So we did a lot of like talking to the camera, like office style stuff, but also a flair of White and Revery. So very different, a lot of handheld. One of the most unique first looks we've ever filmed, which is hilarious. And there's so many funny moments, and they want it to be filmed and showcased almost as if it's like not necessarily like a reality show, but it's going to have some of those vibes. So finding the music and having candid talking parts, and then jumping to funny moments, and then back, and then it's going to be a challenge. Christine's editing right now, but it's going to be super fun. It's absolutely beautiful, but it also, like, you feel it, like you're there with the couple, you're experiencing all the emotions they're having, and it's their style. So that's what I love about our films, is all of our films, I feel like, adapt to each couple and their story.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people
definitely try that as well.
That the whole no walking thing is like,
that's mind blowing.
I get it. I understand that, because
that's the epitome of pushing yourself.
How many more times are going to walk? But I'm tapped out. I can't think of what else what do you want to do?
That, or you could have like Russell Kent Nichols. His thing was, okay, try filming a whole wedding without shooting slow motion. So try that, and then no walking. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Those are some big
really
challenges.
Cool.
I've contemplated doing a wedding in 24 and never even touching 60. I only do it just for security, because I think
of course,
my favorite films don't have a ton of slow motion.
A lot of our films in general don't have a ton of
I like to rely on like the organic real movements. But obviously there are certain things that you want the veil flowing in the wind to just be extra dramatic or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think I might actually just make myself do that one of these days. I gotta look at the schedule. I gotta figure out which wedding.
Or try to force yourself to just not slow it down in post if you're feeling hesitant.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll be a little bit faster with Shutter, but not too bad.
Yeah.
So you guys are like taking way less weddings nowadays. You're very lucky to be able to, pick the right weddings to work that, fill your cup. How long is your editing process now? Has that changed from what it was before? Especially since you are creating films that are quote unquote breaking the mold, that are non-generic.
Yeah.
I feel like we do need more time for certain edits. One of the films, like I've mentioned, that we're working on right now is different than we've ever done. So there's I think Christine's on 3 different versions so far of how she wants to approach it, because it just can flow in different ways, which is why we also like to not take as many films, because we can spend more time on those films with the edit. But also there's like a film we did this year that we've sent off to an editor, and my goal is for them to get it 70% and then give it back to us. And then we're going to take it the rest of the way at our flair, and it'll be fine. So there's times whenever we're mainly editing stuff. We're always touching our films, of course. But it all depends, because Christine can edit, a full highlight film, like a 7-minute film, in 3 or 4 days, or it can be a month and a half. Just like writer's block, where is it flowing? I just wrote a hit song in 7 minutes versus it's been 3 months and I'm still trying to figure out this chorus, I think that's kind of the way, unfortunately, it works for us, especially for Christine. I'm very strategic with my timing. She is kind of more like needs to float like a butterfly and figure out, I'm just not feeling it right now. I need to go for a run or do something else. And then she's like, oh, it just clicks. And then she sits down and just flies. So it all is relative. But we try to, she at least tries to, if we have deadlines, stick to, okay, look, let's try to get through a minute a day. So I'm not trying to think about the whole film. Let's just do a minute. Okay, next day I'm gonna do another minute. Next day I'm gonna do another minute. And then by the end of the week, you have your 7-minute film. Is one way to approach it, and just kind of make that your goal and your deadline. But again, also the hardest part for us is like the first 30 seconds. I mean, once you figure that out, I think the rest can fly sometimes. But
that's really interesting. So like with that strategy, do you guys both edit, or is it mainly Christine?
Mainly Christine. I'll do the final touches, or I'll do small correction, social media stuff, right? And I'll do the audio and color, and I'll go back and fine tune shot selections.
Okay. So when she's doing that, does she? It probably doesn't happen as much now, but before even if it does happen now, does she swap between projects, or does she stick with one film and just go through that?
I mean, she'll have one timeline that she's working through, but she might have sections in those timelines where it's like, okay, here's a song I brought in. It's really not working, but let me just copy this over to this section. And then let me try a different song over here. Oh, I'm going to switch up some of the video. Yeah. And once she kind of starts feeling a flow, then she'll start, like committing it to the timeline and kind of getting it on like at the very beginning. So a lot of it's play, figuring out, I have sequences that I know I like. I have a song, but the first thing she does is looking through all the audio. So she's finding the pieces that stand out the most, the dialogue, and she'll build around that and then look for music, get a vibe, and then she'll start playing with, B-roll or portraits or whatever it is. The one we're working on right now is all over the place. So it's like, how do you start this film? Because it's just
you said that she has like three different. She has like three different like waves of it right now.
Yeah, and part of it is like song selection. I mean, I really feel like that changes the flow. So that's where I think we just found a song over the weekend. We were listening to I think it's the Barbenheimer playlist from Music Bed that they created. And there was a sick song. I'm like, I think this one is great. So I think we're going to use one of those songs.
Do you guys update your playlists on Music Bed? Like the one that you guys have?
Do we what?
Do you guys update those?
We have, I think only one.
I never knew how that worked.
I think what we could, if we did, we would just send Music Bed, our updates. Hey, here's some new songs. And then they would update the playlist. Unfortunately, it doesn't, like pull from a playlist that we currently have. So anytime we change it, it updates for the public. I think those specific ones are hand selected. So we selected those at one time. Now we need to reselect and do some new ones.
Hey, Music Bed, if you're listening, let these playlist creators have full access to their playlist so they can update. I was just curious of how I've noticed that if I'm pulling from a playlist like yours or Eric's or
because my stuff too is like all those songs are old now. I feel like a lot of them have been used up. We need a new refresh.
I'll go through them like I've used that. I've used that. I've used that. I've used that. I've used that.
Yeah, I was wondering how that worked. If you guys,
what would be great is if we had some kind of like hot folder or something where this is a playlist that will be public, and every time we want to find a song, let's just throw it in there, and then it's updated on our playlist publicly for people. I know you can share playlists and stuff, but I don't know if you can. Front-facing Music Bed one, I don't know if that one can be.
Yeah, I just thought about this. It's kind of off topic, but for like engagement sessions and stuff, I'll sometimes play music, and I just realized that you can share, or you can like. What is it? Spotify, you can...
I was literally thinking the same thing, but a different angle. So keep going.
No, you keep going because I forgot what it's called. It's like called Spotify Share or... Because
the nature of Music Bed, it's not royalty-free music. It's actual like artist music. I would venture to say most of them are on Spotify. If you look,
they do have a Music Bed Spotify playlist, I think, too.
You could create at least a White and Revery playlist on Spotify from artists that are on Music Bed. And keep that updated.
I'm gonna have to look into that now.
Oh, it's like a collab.
I just want to get that click though. Oh, you use the click. You got. I just want people to. Yeah,
I get it. But it's a collab thing. Like other people can add music to the playlist and like change it around and things like that. Yeah, I thought that was really cool because I was like, I should create one for engagement sessions, and then like photographers all over the world could use it.
You might get some like heavy metal music being thrown in there. You're like, okay, guys, sorry.
Different vibe.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be funny.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Some of them might love it, though.
I mean, maybe. Yeah.
I was having a thought.
I think, when you create a collaborative one, maybe share it with the select like people in a Facebook group or somebody.
Yeah.
Some randos throwing
they have to have the vibe
Spotify
check.
Playlists.
Yeah.
I'm a Barbie girl's going to pop up on it.
Oh, my gosh. So funny.
So you meant, this has been popped in my head. Christine's method of editing like 1 minute at a time just to get through the minute and then go to the next minute if you like on a deadline. And I kept thinking about this while you were saying this, but like I feel like as creatives we are chasing perfection too much instead of completion.
Yeah.
And in general, like you're not going to just pump out just to finish a film, but like if you break the film down into pieces, you could use that same concept of just get it done. And you'll end up having been closer to perfection because we're never going to get to perfection. But if you finish this minute and you go to this minute, by the time you get to minute 3 or 4, something's going to click, and you can go back and adjust those to make them better. And that's a really good idea.
Because part of it for us is like Christine's not trying to make a perfect edit. She's making it rough, and then she's handing it off to me. So she's getting it 70% of the way there. Because it's like, okay, then we step back, look at these 7 minutes or 8 minutes, and then we're like, okay, we'll analyze it. You know what? I like what's happening here around minute 2 to 4. Like that's strong. Like let's keep that. The first song is probably not hitting, or maybe can we rearrange the first 30 seconds this way because I saw the way you edited the ending, but it's stronger. Maybe we pull from that. So you don't really see it until it's done. So part of it is push yourself, get it 70% or 60%, whatever it is, get it done, and then analyze it. It'll help you really focus on how to create a core timeline and structure by looking at it from a perspective of seeing it finished. And then that's whenever I go through and, okay, this sequence, I see what you're trying to do, but I know there's better shots. So I'm going to go find those better shots, mix them up. Or this one, I'm going to zoom in, or I'm going to do a special flare right here because it's kind of sitting, or this music is too empty. Like this verse is just slow. I'm going to go into the music and restructure that section to fill it up a little bit more. But she doesn't need to waste her time on thinking through that. Just create that minute and create that timeline and structure, and then we can see it, we can analyze it, and then we can perfect it after that.
Yeah, I love
that idea.
I love that. So any epic locations coming up soon that you can say, or?
I mean, we're going to be in California, but there's the place.
But there's so much epicness
amazing.
in California.
Yeah, so much epicness in California. It's going to be super fun. That's honestly our only wedding booked for this year that's coming up. And then next year we don't have anything on the books, which is fun. And because we're only doing about 5 a year now, and then, but I'll probably pick up a few gigs leading or second shooting for other filmmakers throughout the fall or next year, whatever it is, because I still enjoy doing that. But not really any epic locations. We did finish one in April that was in Anguilla, which is in the Southern Caribbean area. That was the hottest wedding I've ever filmed.
Was it humid,
but
or was it like?
It's because I had a double-breasted suit on. So
oh gosh,
that'll do it.
Yeah,
that'll do it. Shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have worn that.
Whoops.
Yeah. What has been like your favorite location that you've filmed at?
Zurich, Switzerland.
Really?
That, like, if I'm thinking of all the, I mean, we filmed in some absolutely breathtaking locations.
Yeah.
Switzerland's my favorite place we've visited. And also we just had a really great experience with the couple and their family and all the culture and the food, and like the photographer brought us to all these hidden spots to take photos that he knew about. And so we just had a great experience, which really solidified that location. Also, obviously we've loved Iceland and stuff. Favorite like luxury hotel spot would be Amangiri, which is absolutely breathtaking to film in. So I would say, overall, probably Switzerland for me.
Nice.
That's not on our list. Maybe it should be.
Maybe it should be. Yeah.
So that wedding you were talking about in California with the planner, is that with Troy?
I cannot confirm or deny.
Okay.
Is it because you can't say who it is, or I won't press?
I can't talk about certain weddings.
I won't press. Okay.
You can't talk about Bruno.
Understood.
You're good.
Understood. Awesome. I don't have anything else.
We have a couple NDAs that we've done before. Some of that wraps up with vendors. Some of that's just with clients. Yeah. Some of it has to do with location. And we have to be careful of like taking too many NDAs because like we got to show something too.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Also, and part of it is like, I mean, also it's really beautiful. I would love to share it. You know, maybe there's a way, if we don't share the film, what if we share some social media edits that's approved by the client? Sometimes try to talk those into it.
I was going to ask you what your approach was, because we just had like an incident, not an incident, but like we just had like a NDA like thing happen, and we've taken NDAs before, and full disclosure, we've charged for them in the past, and I'm like, are people like still charging for them? Is it like, does it depend on what the NDA is involved with? Like, so I've just been kind of lost on it because I feel like I don't know what the industry's like standard is on that anymore. I feel like it just depends.
I mean, like I said, it just depends. Usually the planner or the client has a predetermined NDA they'll send, or we'll send our predetermined NDA, and then they'll write it up and be like, hey, also, can you change this? Can you change that? But for the most part, it's more so the NDA wraps any information And then sometimes it also applies to the film.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're separate where it's just, you can't talk about it, but then after the wedding, you can talk about it. So it depends on how it's written. And each client's different, I would say. But for the most part, it usually wraps up information about the wedding and usually also secures any film content from being shared publicly. However, some of them are written where you do get to have that advantage of sharing approved content from the client.
Is that, you guys did the Jonas Brothers wedding? Yeah.
We didn't do it. That was with Caleb Lee. He was East West Productions as his company, and he hired me as one of his 4 filmmakers for that wedding.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So, I'm sure that there was
that
something
one we had an NDA, but we also, he got booked 10 days before the wedding, and I got booked, and he booked me 7 days before the wedding.
So there wasn't a whole lot of time.
They booked the photographer 10 days, so they didn't want anything being leaked. So they waited till the last minute before they booked their vendors.
Wow.
So that one was definitely an NDA. And that was like 2 NDAs. Like we signed one NDA for Caleb. And then also we ended up as an individual shooter had to sign a separate NDA, which was weird. Yeah. But
don't say anything of what you saw at this event.
It was more like, yeah. You'll be sued for life if you say anything. Just kidding.
Yeah.
No,
basically.
it's mainly posting content.
Yeah.
Straight to jail.
That's so funny.
Straight to jail. You go to jail. Straight to jail.
So any just general advice that you have for maybe up and coming filmmakers out there who are like, oh my God, it's Calen Rhome.
Oh my God. Have fun with this. You don't want to get burnt out. Part of getting burnt out is coming from the aspect of trying to perfect everything, putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and then you're going to just lose the experience and the passion that first drove you to get into this industry. However, also want to inspire people to challenge themselves. If there's something that you want to try or you want to do, make sure that it's not sacrificing the actual clientele or the wedding stuff that they actually want captured by like, okay, I'm going to really go for the shot, but now you've missed 3 moments that are important to them because you try to get this one moment. Make sure it matches the story. I would say don't listen so much to people in Facebook groups about like, this is how you're supposed to do something. I disagree with the mentality of if my client doesn't know the difference, then why should I do it? It's more like you create and challenge yourself, and then you will attract the right clients that appreciate that too. And there'll be films whenever clients can't tell. I agree, but I'm still gonna get the best, motion blur with the proper shutter speed because I like the visual looks of that in my film.
I feel like it sets a precedence for yourself too.
Exactly. Or if you want to really hone in on your color grading and you're trying to figure out, okay, how I want to try a different look for this and challenge yourself. And if you're scared to do it on a wedding, try a style to shoot or do it for just like a social media edit where you've already given the client what they want. Now you can play with some extra footage on your own, but always be challenging yourself. Sometimes get uncomfortable, force yourself into just one lens all day. Try not to get any walking shots and and see if that inspires something new that you haven't thought of because something cool might come out of that. And you're like, oh, I actually like that. And it adapts your style. And then you kind of have a really unique voice for your films. Because ultimately we want to tell beautiful stories. There's so many ways to do it. Let your voice come through that. And part of that is just challenging yourself.
Love it.
I feel like that's like the name of the game in life. Get uncomfortable.
Yeah, get uncomfortable. And that's where the magic happens, for sure.
I didn't hear you. My headphone was blocking.
I said that's when the magic happens.
That is when magic
Can you say that one more time?
One more time?
Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for having me. And it's always fun to reconnect. I know it's been years.
Yeah, it has been.
Absolutely. We need to make this a thing. We need to come to Denver is what we need to do. I miss Death & Co. like horribly.
They got a 3rd or 4th one open now, I think. I think it was Austin, another one that they've opened.
Oh my gosh.
So, they did a pop-up in New Orleans last year.
What?
And we missed it by like a
day.
Week.
Yeah. It was like a day.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was even worse than a week. We missed it though.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Went to Death & Go last week. It was great.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I loved Denver when we were there though. I need to come back.
It's definitely a special place. And this fall is the best time. So September, October, just saying.
Yeah. Awesome.
We'll have to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
If you want to follow Calen, we will link all of their links in the not the comments. I always say comments.
I know.
In the description. Because not everybody watches. Even gamut.io.
Yep.
Is it gamut or
gamut.io?
Real quick, can you tell everybody what that is, just if people don't know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Gamut is it's like a marketplace for digital products for filmmakers. So we kind of specialize in mainly color tools, so like LUTs, adjustment layers, and different tools. We also just acquired a time-lapse company, so we have another company called timelapseplus.com that we just launched last week, literally, and so it's built in. A plugin built into Lightroom, and we've been working on some really fun things with that. We've been working on that for the past 6 months. So it's one of the companies that Gamut's acquired, and we're working on some other stuff. But if you're ever looking for LUTs or really great stuff for your cameras, definitely gamut.io is the website that has all those resources.
Nice. We'll have to look at that because I've been wanting to do more time lapses in our films.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, check that out. Calen, thanks for giving us the hour of your time. It's been fun.
Absolutely.
If you have a question, put it in the comments. Share this because everybody in the world needs to hear what Calen has to say.
Yep.
And we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much,
Peace.
guys.